The new intercity trains in the Netherlands for domestic routes. According to many, these new trains are a game changer. Is that really true, and are these trains really that much better? We're all about to find out in this video as we take this train from Rotterdam Central station, the main station of the second biggest city in the Netherlands, to Amsterdam Central railway station. What is the main railway station of the biggest city in the Netherlands, and we'll be taking this train along the high-speed line. Join me on board of these new trains in the Netherlands. They are already, well, not fully, but in service for a while. So I think it's about time to show you these trains. For now, let's just roll the intro. And like many trip reports, I'll start off by showing you the railway station where this journey starts. What is Rotterdam Centraal railway station? If you're not interested in that and you just want to go to the trains, you will find chapters on YouTube, so you can skip straight to the train part. However, before I show you the railway station, let me show you a little bit what you can find around the railway station. If you move south from the railway station, you will find the so-called luchtsingel, or literally translated air single. And from here on, you have a great view on the railway tracks, and there are some really Instagrammable spots over here as well. This is an elevated walkway that's completely made out of wood, and this is a totally crowd-funded project. It is connecting a part of, not far away from Rotterdam Central railway station, to the old Hofplein railway station. The Hofplein railway line used to be a slower railway line that is connecting Rotterdam with The Hague. But this railway line has now been replaced by metros. Around the luchtsingel you find lots of great initiatives, for example some urban farming and lots of other cool things. Close to the entrance of the luchtsingel you find the beer garden, for example, and this is a great spot, especially on Friday night. When I shot this here, it was on a Monday evening and the weather wasn't that great either, so therefore it didn't look much alive when I was here. Rotterdam is totally different than the biggest city of the Netherlands, Amsterdam, and there's always a kind of competition between these two cities. In terms of population, Rotterdam is a little bit smaller than Amsterdam, but the city size is bigger, so it's less dense populated. What makes the atmosphere totally different is that Rotterdam has been bombed during the Second World War, so most of the historic buildings are not there anymore. Around the railway station you find lots of great artworks, but hey, I think it's time to focus the scope of this video to where this is all about, and that's the railway station and then the trains. Close to the railway station you find the car sharing program Green Wheels, but you find many other car sharing programs and also some rental car companies not far away from the railway station. At the front of the railway station, actually a little bit at the side, you find the biggest taxi stand of this railway station, and right next to that there's a kiss and ride, so basically a spot where you can pick up and drop off railway passengers by car. Right next to that, a little bit more to the front at the side, you'll find the tram stops. There's also a smaller tram stop at the back, but most trams do just call here. If we move a little bit more to the front, you find the walkway to the city center. And this is also the best way to see the great architecture of this railway station. The current railway station building is really modern and dates back from 2014. The original letters that's saying Centraal Station at the front of the railway station were also the same letters that were being used for the old railway station building. At the other side, from what I showed you earlier on, you'll find the bus stop. This is not only for city buses, but also long distance buses being operated by Flixbus, BlaBlaBus and also RegioJet to Prague. Near Rotterdam you'll find two ferry connections to the UK, and if you take the ferry operated by P&O that goes to Hull, the bus that's connecting to the ferry also departs from here. Slightly closer to the railway station, at the part where you find the bus stop, there's a public parking spot for bikes. Although this is definitely not the biggest parking spot. Between the bus stop and the parking spot over here, there's another pick-up and drop-off zone for railway passengers by car. My favorite way to get around in Rotterdam is the bike, and I'm using Donkey Republic for this. I'm also working in Rotterdam, and this is also why I didn't shot the station review in one single go. So therefore, the weather is at some parts good and at some parts it's a little bit less good in this video. Electric scooter and bike sharing programs, both electric and non-electric bikes, can be found at the front of the railway station. This doesn't include the OV-fiets, what is the bike sharing program of the Dutch state-owned railway company NS. Those bikes can be rented from the parking garage for bikes that is located right under the big square at the front of the railway station. Apart from this place being a spot where you can rent the OV-fiets, the bike sharing program of the Dutch state-owned railway company NS, and also the biggest parking spot for bikes, near the entrance of this garage, you also find a bike repair shop. I mean, we're in the Netherlands after all, a true cycling country. From the underground parking garage, you will find access to the railway station, although it's not that great to be honest. Basically, you only find entrance to the metro station, and then you have to walk a bit to go to the real railway station. You get out pretty close to this entrance of the metro that's located at the square at the front of the railway station. If you want to walk through the railway station, so from the front to the back, and you do this via the train area, you have to go through gates. You can basically touch in at the front and touch out at the back, or the other way around. But if you don't have a smart card or contactless payment card, you can also bypass these gates. Because at the side of the railway station there's a tunnel for bikes and pedestrians. You find these light domes, by the way, and these light domes or glass that's located at the platforms. I'll show you in a bit. A water tap you can use to refill your bottle to reduce plastic waste is located at the back of the station. At the back there's another tram stop that's only being used for one tram line, another pick-up and drop-off zone for railway passengers by cars, another taxi stand, and obviously you find more spots where you can park bikes. Rotterdam is home to the biggest metro system in the Netherlands. This metro system is not just serving Rotterdam, but also lots of towns around Rotterdam, and this even goes all the way to The Hague. Also for international railway passengers, this metro is quite interesting because right next to the ferry that's being operated by Stena Line near Hoek of Holland, you find a metro station, and also in the UK, right next to the ferry terminal in Harwich, you find a railway station, and there are great rail and sail offers on this as well. I promise you there will be a video on this route as well, because the Stena Line ferry is actually my favorite way to travel to the UK, especially the overnight ferry. If you want to travel with these metros, you can just use your contactless payment card as a smart card for public transportation, but if you have a subscription or you want to use your public transport smart card, you find points where you can buy tickets and also charge your public transport smart card. In this video I actually spent way too much time about the railway station, and this partially has to do with the fact that I'm using this railway station a lot myself. I mean, I'm working in Rotterdam. And also, my dad used to live right next to the railway station at the back when I was young. But for now it's really time to go into the railway station building. The main concourse is located right at the front of the railway station building. Over here you find direct access to the metro, and the trams are located right next to it. Departure times for the trams have been mentioned within the railway station building. And you also find some information desks, not only for trains, but also touristic information. And there's even a small souvenir shop where you can buy Rotterdam related souvenirs. All over the railway station, before you go through the access gates, you will find vending machines where you can buy train tickets. Information about departing trains has been given very well throughout the railway station. At the main concourse you find a big screen that will host most detailed information. Close to this point you will find the tickets and service desk. This is not only for domestic trains but also international trains and city transportation. I also noticed that the change office, so where you can change money, is located right here. This area can also be easily entered from outside of the railway station, by the way. Tickets and information for the European sleeper trains, this is a night train between Brussels and Berlin via the Netherlands, they cannot help you here. And if you want to buy tickets for the Eurostar trains, I strongly recommend you to not buy those tickets last minute. First of all, the trains might be fully booked, and second of all, if there are seats available, those fares might be relatively high. For the other trains, so not the Eurostar trains to Belgium for example, you don't need a seat reservation, but you also have some benefits if you buy these tickets a little bit earlier on. Right above the area where you find the tickets and service desk, you will find the stationshuiskamer, or literally translated station living room. This is a really nice place and you have a great view on the main concourse of the railway station over here. And integrated within this area, there's also a small dependence of the Rotterdam Library. I mean, this is really nice and you see this more often at railway stations, but I really like this. Over here you also find the toilets and there are some access gates that will gain access to track number 2. At track number 2 you will also find the NS International Lounge. I'll get back to that in a bit. For now I will go through the gates from the main concourse that is leading to all the railway tracks. You can open the gates using a public transport smart card, a contactless payment card, but if you use a contactless payment card you pay the full fare, so please keep this in mind. If you're traveling with an e-ticket, both a domestic ticket or an international ticket, you most likely have a QR code on your ticket to open the gate. The layout of this railway station is pretty simple. There's basically one big tunnel where you find lots of shops around. You don't have to be hungry within this railway station because there are lots of places where you can buy food. But there are also many other travel related shops, like for example a bookshop, a shop where you can buy suitcases, well, lots of other things. I mean, this is a very busy spot with lots of commercial spaces. At the back of the railway station, close to the entrance of track 15 and 16, you will find the lockers. This is really hidden, but they are there. From and to the platform, there are elevators, escalators and obviously stairs. The elevators are located in the middle of the station hall. At the sides, you will find on one side only escalators and at the other side both escalators and stairs. Before you enter the platforms within the main railway station hall, it has been clearly marked what is the first departure from that platform. And the platform number has been mentioned crystal clear before you go up to the platform. The platforms themselves are not that interesting. Obviously, you find some spots where you can have a sit while you wait for your train. And at most platforms you also find a small kiosk, what is a very tiny convenience store. Dutch trains don't have dining cars. You won't only find the underground passage I showed you earlier on to go to the tracks, but if you want to change between the tracks there's also an overground passage. And from here on you have a great view on the railway tracks as well. Most of the platforms are pretty wide, so if it's busy there's enough space for everybody. Remember the light domes I mentioned for the bicycle pedestrians tunnel? This is how they look from the platforms. Like I already mentioned a bit earlier in the video, the platform that hosts the track number 2 is slightly different. And just in case you're wondering, there's no track number 1 anymore because track number 2, at least the platform that hosts track number 2, has been made bigger to be able to host the Eurostar trains. And custom formalities need to take place here for the Eurostar trains to the UK. When it comes to the capacity for customs in the Netherlands for Eurostar trains, it's not ideal yet. I mean, there's just not enough, especially not if you see how big these trains are. But in Rotterdam there's in general more capacity than in Amsterdam. So therefore ticket prices for Eurostar trains to the United Kingdom from Rotterdam are in general a bit cheaper if you book this from Rotterdam instead of from Amsterdam. If you take the Eurostar trains from and to Paris, what are formerly known as the Valleys trains, for these trains this doesn't count because there are no custom formalities that need to take place at the railway station. Like I already mentioned, track 2 is slightly different, and in track 2 you will find the NS International Lounge. Apart from this being a first class lounge for international railway passengers, you also find some offices you can rent for if you have a business meeting. Domestic tickets won't gain access to the first class lounge, however you can also go here and pay a little bit extra and enjoy the first class lounge. However, for now I think it's really time to go to our train, because I think you have a good impression of this railway station. I hope you like this video so far. If you have any questions or if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment. If you like this video or this is a helpful video to you, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, this channel is mainly focusing on long distance and or international traveling, then hit that subscribe button. And if you don't want to miss anything, also hit the bell icon. And by the way, you can also follow me on the socials over here. But for now, let's continue with this video. Before we take a closer look at the trains, let's take a look at the map. Our journey starts in Rotterdam and we'll go along the high-speed line to Schiphol Airport. From there on, the train will take the conventional railway line to the railway station of Amsterdam Centraal. This is not the entire high-speed line in the Netherlands. Actually, the high-speed line continues to Belgium and eventually to France. Domestic trains that will also use the southern part of the high-speed line do also call it Breda. The specific train types that I'll be showing in this video will also operate on the railway line between The Hague and Eindhoven. That train is only taking the southern part of the high-speed line between Rotterdam and Breda. These new trains will first replace the old rolling stock that is being used for the high-speed line, and right after that they will replace the older single-deck intercity trains you can find in the Netherlands. The idea behind this is that these intercity trains will also be using the high-speed line in the future, because you find a different voltage on the high-speed line. By the way, the intercities that are using the high-speed line right now do not call at all intercity railway stations. Please keep this in mind, because this might be a little bit confusing every now and then. If you take these trains between Amsterdam and Rotterdam, then these trains are pretty often called Intercity Direct. You need to pay a supplement for these trains if you're traveling between Rotterdam and Schiphol airport. You can pay these supplements at special supplements columns you can find at the platforms, and otherwise you can pay for this supplement in the NS app. Ticket prices for trains in the Netherlands can be relatively high, especially if you don't have any discount cards, and especially also if you take this train within the rush hour and you need to pay extra for the supplements. However, there is a certain limit for ticket prices for trains in the Netherlands. Let's say you're traveling from Groningen to Amsterdam. You are close to this point already, so any destination you travel further in the Netherlands won't be that much pricier, what is actually quite okay. Also, there are great deals for frequent travelers. For example, if you travel pretty often in the weekend, like what I do have an unlimited subscription to travel in the weekend, what is really affordable. The same thing you have for the off-peak hours during all days of the week. If you're traveling every now and then by train, you also find 40% discount subscriptions for in the off-peak hours, and these subscriptions are really affordable. It's really easy to earn this back. However, if you just take this train between Amsterdam and Rotterdam and you don't have any discount cards, for example in the rush hour, or no subscription for a certain route, then the ticket prices for these specific trains are actually relatively high. However, these intercity trains along the high-speed line are by far the fastest, most convenient and most sustainable way to travel between Amsterdam and Rotterdam. Anyway, here on the right is our train for today. These trains do consist of 5 or 8 carriages. These trains are based on the Alstom-Coradia Stream trains and do have a top speed of 200 km per hour, although they go slightly faster, I noticed. And even though 200 km per hour doesn't make these trains super fast, these are officially high-speed trains. Slow high-speed trains though. On the outside, it has been clearly marked where you find the first and the second class, and apart from the numbers 1 and 2 at the side, an extra blue line above the windows does exactly indicate where you will find the first class. LED screens at the side, the front and at the back of the train do host the final destination, and some basic icons like for example a wheelchair or a bike do indicate the more accessible area and the area where you can enter the train with a bike. These trains have barrier-free access, and this is great because traveling should be easy for everybody. Wheelchair users don't need to call for assistance in these trains, what is absolutely great. Because these trains will go on higher speeds, and also along the high-speed line where you find lots of tunnels, you find bigger doors, so they can deal easier with pressure. And you also find quite a lot of doors, so people can go in and out relatively fast. I mean, the Netherlands is a small, dense populated country, so most distances are not that long anyway. For now, let's do a train tour. I'll start off at the front of the train and walk slowly to the back, or the other way around, just how you look at it. The second class does have blue seats and the first class does have red seats. I'll show you in a bit. Here you find some space where you can park a bike, for example, and within these trains you also find the so-called lounge seats here on the left. Most seats do face each other here. I'll get back to this in a bit. For luggage, of course, you can use the overhead luggage racks throughout the train that are everywhere, but there are some special dedicated luggage zones as well in the compartments. Apart from that, because most seats are bay seats, so facing each other, between the back ends of the seats you can store quite some luggage as well. At the moment I filmed the interior of the train, when the train was standing at the railway station in Rotterdam Centraal, the disabled toilet wasn't functioning. But I shot this footage earlier on, and this is the bigger accessible toilet. These toilets can also be used as a diaper changing facility, what is ideal and pretty common along disabled toilets within European trains, by the way. And for the rest, it's really spacious. Close to these toilets you also find a disabled area for people traveling in a wheelchair, what makes sense really. Also for these areas there are some special luggage racks and some seats at side position, but also the regular seats. Most seats in these trains do face each other, and I'm not a big fan of this personally. However, what is a great thing is that there are more seats that do have a bigger table in between, and I think this is a great addition on the current trains we have in the Netherlands. There are screens throughout the train, between the compartments, but also at the end of the compartments that will host route information. This here is the first class that comes in a 2x1 configuration, and the first class compared to the second class is really much better. But don't get me wrong, the second class is also a good product. Litter bins are situated between the compartments, between the open compartments, and you can separate your waste to recycle, what is great. There are no litter bins near the seats. The idea is that this is easier to clean the trains, and I guess that's true. However, I noticed that some small pieces of litter were at some spots within these open compartments as well. And it only takes a couple of people who don't take this very serious and just leave their waste next to the seat to make the train look really dirty. I think we really have to see how this is going in the near future. I mean, for some of the local trains they already did this. Mood lights do indicate different zones within these trains. For example, the quiet zone. The quiet zone has also been marked with a small icon that is saying that this is a quiet zone. Actually, I think it should be way better indicated what zones do indicate what mood lights. Because, well, honestly, I don't know what this zone is, for example. So using the mood lights is great, but don't only use the mood lights, but add some more things to it. For people traveling with a lot of luggage, there's really thought about this in these trains. So that's absolutely a good progress for these trains. Eventually these trains will not only be used on the high-speed line, but also on other railway lines in the Netherlands, and then mainly for routes that will combine the high-speed line with regular trains. At first, these trains will be put in operation for the so-called Intercity Direct service, what is the train between Amsterdam, Schiphol Airport and Rotterdam. This here is the regular toilet. There are two of these toilets in the longer trains and one of these toilets in the shorter trains. It almost feels like doing your business in the bushes over here with these wallpapers. And the water wasn't there. I think this is really not okay and not acceptable. I mean, having running water in a toilet is really important for hygienic reasons. Toilets on Dutch trains, I think they can be improved, because it happens every now and then that there's no running water. I mean, I see some progress, but we're not there yet. These here are the tables facing each other with a smaller table in between, and this here with a bigger table in between. And I think, once again, like I already told you, these bigger tables are great. However, most people who travel on these trains just do travel on relatively short distances, and quite a lot of people travel alone. If you're traveling alone, these seats with 4 seats facing each other isn't ideal. I mean, a lot of people actually don't like these trains for this reason. But if you're traveling with some friends, I think this is absolutely great. For now, it's time for a seat tour, and I will start off by showing you the second class seats, because most likely you travel in second class yourself as well, and this is also where you find the highest capacity. The seats that do come in an airline style or a long distance bus composition do have really a generous amount of legroom. There's a tray table in the seat in front of you can fold out, and all seats do have one power plug per 2 seats, so it's in the middle. The seats that do face each other with a bigger table in between, these tables are really nice, but you can't make them much bigger. So if you want to work on a laptop and you have also someone who wants to do the same thing who is sitting opposite from you, I think it's gonna be challenging. Even though it seemed like not all airline style seats do have the same amount of legroom, in general the legroom is pretty generous in the second class in these trains. Where the Dutch state-owned railway company with the previous refurbished trains they have, these were the firm double deck trains. The first class over there, I didn't feel it was good at all actually, especially compared to the second class. Mainly the second class product was good on those trains, but in these trains I really feel the difference. The seats are way more comfortable. Amount of legroom is not that much more. I mean the second class is also pretty fine, but the seats in first class is just a big difference on this. So it might be interesting a bit more to travel on first class on these trains, and especially because some of these trains will be used on longer distances. Amsterdam, Rotterdam, it's not a super long distance actually. These trains will first replace the older trains that are being used for the high-speed line, and don't go on high speeds by the way, what you can see here on the left. After they have replaced these trains, they will also replace the older single-deck intercity trains you can find in the Netherlands, and those trains can be found literally everywhere in the country. The new trains will mainly be used for services that will use partially the high-speed line or another high-speed line. At this moment there's one line where the high-speed line will partially be used as well, and that is the train between The Hague and Eindhoven that calls in Rotterdam and Breda as well. So in that term, these trains might be a game changer for long distance trains in the Netherlands. Long distance in the Netherlands, this really doesn't go hand in hand by the way. I mean the longest possible distance you can have in the Netherlands is a little over 350 kilometers by train. And even though I took the first official ride on these trains from Rotterdam to Amsterdam when they started launching these trains, I waited a bit before publishing this video because I want to see how these trains are functioning and share my honest opinion with you about these trains. For the first official ride, there are even professional waivers for passengers taking this first ride from Rotterdam to Amsterdam, and the other way around. Well, I didn't do that because then I had to get it way too early. For now I'll show you some views from the train on the routes between Rotterdam and Amsterdam along the high-speed line, and also share my honest opinion about these trains. And in general I think these are good trains. However, I think it would be great to see less seats that do face each other, so more airline style or long distance bus seat composition. The different zones in the train can be marked way better if you ask me. The mood lights are great, but I think this is not enough. The overall comfort level of these trains is really good, and I like these trains for that reason. There's also free Wi-Fi available. Route information has been given all over the train and is crystal clear. These trains accelerate really fast and can also go faster than the older trains that were using the high-speed line. These combinations can really reduce the travel time in the future. At this moment they still have the old-fashioned timetable where the older trains go 160 km per hour. What actually means if there's a delay, they can catch it up by just going fast. At last, the name for these trains is Intercity New Generation. I think this is just the worst name ever you can come up with for a train. I mean, now they are new, but they won't be new forever. For now, I think I told you quite a lot in this video, so I'll just show you the rest of the views from the train between Rotterdam and Amsterdam. I hope you liked this video. If you did so, please give me a thumbs up like I already told you in the video. Also, if it has been a helpful video to you. And if you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, then hit that subscribe button. Before we really end up this video, one last message. Once again, thank you for watching. If you are interested in other trip reports, then you can find them on this channel as well. And something else, in the description of this video on YouTube, you find a link to a map, and on this map you can find all trip reports. This channel is mainly focusing on long distance and international traveling on a more sustainable way of transportation.